a podcast about amazing people from an incredible state. Amazing Arizonans with Mike Broomhead.
Back with another edition of Amazing Arizonans, and just to be totally honest, when we started these, this is the person I wanted to be the first one out of the box. W. Stephen Martin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really sorry that the audio didn't work out on the first one, because the idea behind this podcast is Amazing Arizonans.
Okay.
And you were so influential to me. When I moved here to rodeo. Country music has always been a big part of my life. And I don't think anybody in this valley has listened to country music that doesn't know who you are.
Well, gosh.
Am I right? I mean, you have to admit that.
Oh, no, you know what? It was wonderful. And country fans, I mean, we had 1 out of every 4 cars listening to my show in country music for a period of almost 11 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of people knew me. I borrowed money from everyone. They never forget you if you don't pay them back. But a wonderful career. It gave me the opportunity to make things happen for people even today, 20 years after I went off the air.
Okay, so let's talk about that, and I'm going to try to do this without crying. I'm going to try to get this out. You came in today before we started this podcast, and you gave me something that I can't believe you gave me. Do you mind explaining the story behind what I'm going to show them?
No, I mean, ballpark, I've been around a long time, and I've met a lot of really wonderful, creative broadcasters, but more importantly, they were wonderful, creative people. And early in my life, when I was a sophomore in high school, I met a gentleman by the name of Al McCoy. And Al was, first and foremost, the first person who really gave me hope that I could do and be and live on the radio. I could open my life, and if I did it right, people would never forget that behind that voice there was a heart as big as that attitude I had to have.
Yeah.
But Al was, he just instantly became a friend, and Al McCoy knew talent. He knew phonies. I mean, the stories that he would tell at our lunches, they were the old-time Phoenix brass. And Al would call them out. I guarantee you. Some of our lunches, I would record the old Criz and Crux stories. And so I picked him up. He lived at the Oasis, a senior retirement center, after Georgia passed away, and they sold the house. He moved over to the Oasis. Very proud, but also very respectful to his wife and his children. His awards for his career were on a little TV table. His family was everywhere. So anyway, we're driving along talking about the new broadcasting, the AI, the way that people present themselves on the radio, and your name came up. And I'm driving along because he didn't drive. And he said, "Do you know Mike?" I said, "Well, I've done a couple of things with him, and he was great in construction."
Yeah.
And he's good on the air. He just has a nice charisma, good communicator. And he goes, "Well, that's what I think." And it was right after he retired for number 50. And they brought out, Phoenix Brewing Company, a beer called Shazam.
Yeah.
And from that point, they had a limited number of cans available. And so I went down and talked to the owners, and I said, "Look, I need a case of these to get Al to sign, to give away, or to auction off for our charity for the police toy drive." And so he goes, "I'll take care of you." So he did. And so I'm driving along, and I've got this case of beer in my car, and Al is signing these, and he goes, "Now, you sure you know Mike?" And I went, "Oh, yeah. He said, "Sure." He said, "I want you to make sure he gets one." And the can of Shazam, the IPA, is signed.
I don't know how good the camera can
number
pick that up.
51, Al McCoy. And bless his heart, he was really pretty weak. And I had 3 or 4 pins, and we're driving along, but not to make you go crazy. But he really admired the fact that you're a communicator. You're not just a pretty face on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
So I was so thrilled when you called me to come back, because I wanted to give you that candid person and tell you that comes with the endorsement of who you are and what you do from Al McCoy.
It's humbling to have you even here, and I'm going to talk about why in a moment, but I was privileged to do 2 television commercials with Al. And the first one we were talking about before was called the Sanderson All-Stars, but the second one was just him and I.
Okay.
And it was for the Coyotes when they made the playoffs.
Oh.
And it was Sanderson Ford.
Right.
But the Coyotes wanted him in the ad, and the Suns were kind enough to let him do it and to use his catchphrase Shazam. And
Right.
But it was just him and I in the commercial, and
Wow.
I was nervous.
Wow.
He was always so kind to me. And for no reason. I mean, I really was a novice in this industry at the time, and he was so encouraging. The fact that he thought of me at all, I will cherish this. That is probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given.
Oh, nice.
And now I'm even more sad that I can't thank him. It makes me miss him in this moment even more.
Well, but I think and when he was signing those, and I have a few others for a few other people that were instrumental in creating better creative radio. And there's probably 6 or 7 that he signed specifically for people. And the fact that he listened to you, the fact that he felt you were as communicative at your style as he was at his.
That's a big compliment.
Well,
I want to talk about the other reason. Obviously, being a fan of yours and listening, and radio's different. I know every industry changes, but I grew up as a kid. I still remember as a little kid, I listened to a top 40 station. I grew up in a little town called Fort Myers, MYERS, and the station was WMYR, like W. Meyer.
okay.
And I listened at night to this top 40 station, and the DJ's name was John Lentry.
Oh.
Jumpin' Johnny Jive. I'll never forget him. And you felt like you knew those people.
Yeah.
Those were the day when you felt like your friend was talking to you.
Right.
And I know that you did that for people here. There was you, and there's Tim and Willie, and there's iconic Big Shoe Stu Evans, and there's some other really iconic names in radio here in town. But then when I got into radio, I felt like I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to do something with my voice.
Yes.
You were absolutely, without a doubt, the inspiration of what I wanted to do for first responders. What you did, what you've done, what you do with the toy drive. The news, all over the news stations in town showing a mile of motorcycles going down the road with toys for kids.
Yes.
And your heart for law enforcement and heart for first responders, that inspired me. And that's why and I try to emulate what you've done. Can you talk about how many toys have you purchased? How have you done with this, and what's the success of that program?
Well, in every sense of the word, early days at Chris, not having a family with any money at all, learning what it was like to stand in line when the Phoenix JCs had a toy giveaway, and my mother said, "Look, we got a letter. You're going to get Christmas." How important to see other people care. It just became so huge in my heart. I thought, how can I do this? We had a church group drop off food at my home, and I'm probably 8 or 9, and I go, "Mom, what's in the boxes?" And she goes, "Oh, it's food." And I went, "Who are those people?" She said, "Honey, those are people that care about us. And they want to make sure that you have every chance to grow up like the rest of the kids." And it just makes my heart just sink, because the first time I did a motorcycle ride, I had a little 350 Honda, And I thought, I'm going to put together a ride, and if you want to join me, all I want you to do, it's going to be socks and underwear for the boys and girls out at the Arizona ranch. And I had like 50 motorcycles show up. And we met at Waffle House at Baseline and the freeway. And I stood up on their little curb area and I said, why are you guys here? This is so cool. I can't carry all of those on my motorcycle. It was a little one, but we're going to just ride out a little bit. Why are you here? And a guy that looked like he could have cut your throat and left without worrying about you said, because you asked me. And I went, wow. Got to be careful what I ask for.
Yeah.
And the toy drive now, we're at 8 million toys.
8 million.
8 million. And that's through the hands of law enforcement and fire. And I honestly tell you, I'm looking for a way to give it life so I can quit. We're changing the toy drive, and in your bag there, if you want to pull it out or you can show it later, we brought out a Christmas ornament. There's a great big Christmas ornament.
Is this one?
Yes, and we're going to do the last official officer giveaway at 2 warehouses, but this is our 8 millionth celebration. You can hang it on your tree. We have a patch tree that has hundreds of police patches. Cops that go through, I mean, it was so cute. They're cutting the patches off and hanging them on the tree. But all of this, and I'm going to give kudos to country music people. Even now, all these years later, the same people, the same families, the same businesses, country music people are not afraid to commit and deliver. And they've made this work for me, and thank God for them.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're at. I have to change it. Shopping has changed. People buy from Amazon, and here I'm trying to keep 2 warehouses open and spend a lot of money that we don't have. When we don't have money, it comes out of my retirement.
Right.
I can't afford to do that and keep getting older. So I'd prefer not to go away. But the reality is we're going to go to a direct Santa. It's called a Blue Santa Direct. And all you have to do, an officer or firefighter, once they fill that out, we take the money from that Christmas wreath or donated money, and we will buy the gifts, the exact gifts they've asked for. And then we will send it directly to that officer through Amazon. We eliminate cars, we eliminate warehouses, insurance, fuel costs, and more importantly, we get the right toy to the right kid from the right cop at the right time.
That's amazing. It's an amazing story.
It's been a wonderful life.
We just recently went back to St. Mary's Food Bank, and we have a thing called the Action Alliance we started. It was just a simple thing on the air. Like you said, I asked people. And when COVID ended, we said, we know people want to do stuff in the community. So if you sign up, we'll put you on the email list. We'll send you a T-shirt, and then we'll tell you when we have these community service events.
Okay.
So we did them. We did the most recent one was on a Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, middle of the workday at St. Mary's Food Bank. And we had people show up, and we packed in 2 hours 1,350 emergency food boxes.
Oh, sweet.
And like you, the amazing thing is that if you use your voice and just say, will you come, this community pours its heart out.
Well, and I'm going to back you up just a step, because a lot of people use their voice, and a lot of people don't get anything because they're not believable. There's always that hook. And when you put your lips to a microphone with your voice, it's pushed by your heart. And people hear that. And going back to Al McCoy, there was never a time that man could not speak that you could not see what he was saying.
Right.
And people see that with you, Mike. They saw it with me for a long time.
Well, I appreciate it. I believe me, that's the goal. And when you say it or Al says it, then I believe it.
Oh.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about country radio because I'm so compelled. when I was young, I was privileged to get hired as an extra to load and unload trucks for concerts. So I've gotten to see in certain
roadie?
Yeah, but the local road crew. We were the local road crew.
Okay.
But we were the strong back and the weak mind. We couldn't open any of the boxes. We couldn't touch the equipment. No. It was move this box, carry it over here. But it was a connection to music, and I got to see up close some of those people we watched on stage.
Yes.
And in some cases, it was amazing. And you thought, oh my gosh, I just had a conversation with John Bon Jovi or with Aaron Tippin or whoever.
Right.
But there was the day in radio when you were at your biggest, where the DJs ran the industry.
Yes.
And the music was played because of you, and the music industry came to you. And will you tell some of those stories? Because for those of us that are fans, these were the people that needed you and not the other way around.
Absolutely. And the business has changed, but the reality was when you were in, at the time this story happened, a guy by the name of Johnny Cash got busted in Juarez for smuggling in some pills. And a guy who became a friend with Columbia Records, we called him Tree, he called me at home and he goes, hey, when you go in, the concert is on hold. It's not canceled. But John's in jail.
Yeah.
He won't be there. And so we're going to cancel Tucson, but we're going to try to keep the date in Phoenix. And at the time, we were at KRDS, the only AM 24-hour country station in really Arizona. And he goes, so I'll work you a deal when we reschedule. Tell people don't get rid of your tickets. So I did. I went on the air, made a big deal out of it, played some of his songs, and never did John say he was innocent. He told me face to face that he was set up by RCA Records because he was on Columbia, and I'm bigger than all of them, and they set me up. They put that in my guitar case. Yeah. But if you watch the Johnny Cash movie, you see him get busted, and then all of a sudden he's back out and on the road. So we're at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and I go back and I give them my card, and Tree, the guy from Columbia Records, said, you're going to interview John first. Don't hold back. He's expecting you. Don't hold back because all the other radio stations get him after the concert. So I go, okay, and I tap on the door, and this man opens the door, and I said, W. Stephen Martin to see Johnny Cash. And I hear John in the background, oh, good, bring him in. Hey, come on in. Hey, he said, brother. And I'm going, brother? He was a minister that was court appointed. The only way they would let John finish his show, and the Statler brothers and June Carter and all those people were there. And so the minister says, oh, okay, come on in. He said, I'll just have a chair over here. And John said, brother so-and-so, this is going to be a 30-minute interview. Why don't you, it has to be really quiet. This is important. So why don't you just wait out? It's just me and him. So he goes out. He says, all right, I'll wait outside the door. He wasn't out the door 2 seconds. Cash flips the lock, goes over to a guitar case, pops it open, and it's full of booze and pills. And he goes, W, I got to do some show prep. I know you understand. And I'm just horrified that, oh, my gosh. So he sits down, and he goes, all right, what do you want to know? And so I ask him about Ring of Fire and a couple of the other real big hits at the time. And he goes, now, really, what do you want to ask me? Well, I want to ask him about Juarez and were you really set up? And he finally goes, you want to talk about my guitar? He's trying to get me to open that envelope. So I went, all right, well, what happened? Were those your pills? And I just saw him take a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
He even offered me stuff. Yeah. Oh, no, thanks. I just saw this, and he sits down, and we had little teeny cassette recorders and cheap microphones, and he picks it up, and he goes, Columbia Records set me up. And don't you ever think Johnny Cash does drugs.
And you just watched.
I just watched him suck them all down. So I went, okay, all right. He said, do you want some show promos? I mean, he was very savvy to what, and the point you made, how do I get radio to play my song after I leave?
Right.
How do I get him to play the song that's not a great hit, but they've got a promo to drop in? So here's Johnny Cash with his latest song. So he goes through that routine. He cuts my promos, and I get up to walk out, and I got my little tape recorder in my hand, and he goes, oh, whoa. Got to do a little more show prep.
Yeah, wait just a minute.
So I had to sit there and wait for him while he did show prep. And he goes, okay, I'm ready now. And he closed the guitar case and puts it back behind the little couch and opens the door. And here comes the minister. And he goes, how'd everything go? I said, amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Now, so that's the only part in the movie that would have been incredible because he was hooked. And he had to have him. And he needed him to perform. And even with a minister with him, he was able to manipulate and be Johnny Cash. And the show was fantastic.
Isn't it something you were telling about in that story about them trying to get you to play the record? I don't know that people understand what hit makers a DJ could be. That if you played a song and you said to your audience, I really like this song and I think it's going to be a hit, you had the ability to influence an audience into, now people are going to like what they like, but they're going to listen a little closer.
Right.
And the old adage that says that just when you're starting to learn the words to the song as a listener, the DJ is sick of hearing it because they played
Right.
it so much.
Oh, yeah. And you never really get to hear it in the studio because, you know, the speakers are down and you're on the phones and you're doing all kinds of stuff. But the thing you're talking about, I had several artists. Hank Jr. was the worst person in the world. And
that breaks my heart. You know that. I love Hank so much.
I know you do.
Breaks my heart.
Well, you know what? You got to just go with
No,
what you
I
know.
get it. I believe you. I'm just saying it's heartbreaking to me because I love his music so much.
Well, but you can love someone's music. You can love someone for what they do, but they can still just be irritating. And I was so mad at him because we had set up a lot of promotion. We filled the Coliseum again.
The Madhouse on McDowell.
Absolutely. Thanks, Al.
Yep, thanks
We're
again, Al.
talking about you. But he was drunk. He showed up for the show in his limousine. We had a meet and greet with, and I think it was MGM Records was handling him then, about 200 listeners in one of those little side rooms. He drives in, and they said, Hank's here. He's about an hour late. And so I said, I got to corner him right now. And you had the power to do that. People, security, W's going to talk to Hank. And I go over, and they open the car door, and he gets out, and I said, hey, where were you? I've got 200 people. I promised they could meet you. I don't have time. I said, it's because you screwed off and you weren't here. And these people have the right to meet you. I promised them. Well, I'm not going in there. I said, then I will never play another one of your records ever. And I will call DJs I know in Seattle, Los Angeles, because if you won't meet them here, why should they think you'd keep your word there? All right, I'll go meet him. So
wow.
He walked in the door, and they're all standing there. We didn't do photos, but in his arrogance, he said, okay, all right, I'm here, and if you want to see my show, you better get your butts in your chairs. And he looked at me, and he said, how was that? And I went, not worth playing another one of your songs. And I turned around and walked out. And to this day, I have not played a Hank Williams Jr. song.
You know what's funny? Because one of the first experiences, I did an event with Aaron Tippin. And when I met Aaron, and for those of you that don't know country music, Aaron Tippin was huge in the 90s.
You got to stand for something.
You got to stand for something. Ain't nothing wrong with the radio.
That's right.
He was opening for Hank.
Okay.
And I was there to see Hank.
Right.
And Aaron Tippin was so good he was amazing, and Hank was drunk. And he came out, and his guitar wasn't working right, and he threw his guitar across the stage, and they brought him another one. He kind of did a little bit of a just raced through a bunch of his songs, and it was disappointing.
Yeah.
So years and years later, as a matter of fact, when John McCain was the nominee for president, he did his last rally the night before the election on a Monday night, like Barry Goldwater did up in Prescott in the town square.
Yeah.
And I was the MC. And of all people, Hank Williams Jr. was the entertainment. And I got to meet him, and I got to speak to him for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
It was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
Really?
And I don't know if as he got older, if he had kind of mellowed, I don't know, but I think maybe it's because it was an event. Maybe he hadn't been drinking or anything because it was for John McCain.
Yeah.
He was pleasant. He was cordial. I said, man, I'm thrilled to meet you. And he was actually in a conversation and nice. And I was very nervous that I'd be disappointed in him, but he was actually nice to me.
Well,
so,
great.
But listen, I understand your position. And I think to wrap around that is, we didn't have algorithms then. There weren't algorithms. You were the algorithm. You decided what gets played. It's your show. You picked the set list. These are the songs I'm going to play on my show. And my audience trusts me to play the right music. And so they had to go to you. You know?
Yes.
There's one story, would you please tell? You hung up on Garth Brooks.
Yeah, no. Garth, forgive me. It was early in his career, and he was on his way into Phoenix, and they traveled by bus, and they didn't have cell phones. And so we had a scheduled time, 7:20. There's, 400,000 people listening on their way to work.
And this is his heyday. I mean, he's Garth Brooks at this time.
He's the skyrocket, man.
Yeah.
He's going up.
So this wasn't an upstart guy trying to make a name for himself. This was the guy.
No, he had launched, and his airplay was everywhere. People that wanted to keep someone listening to a light rock station would play Unanswered Prayers because otherwise they're going to turn and go and listen to W somewhere. So anyway, he called me from just outside of Tucson at a payphone, and he goes, I'm in Marana. And I said, you're in Marana, Arizona. And I say, the phone is terrible, Garth. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, you don't sound good. It's scratchy. You can hardly understand you. I said, why don't you hang up and call on the other phone? He goes, how do you know there's another phone? I said, well, I do my Tucson to Phoenix bike ride, and I call my reports in. So go to the other phone and call me right back. Oh, okay. So couple of, 2 minutes later, I'm in a commercial break, and I'm stalling while he calls, and I punched the line up on the air and said, hey, Garth, are you there? And it's, Garth, remember I told you if it isn't clear, I'm going to hang up on you? Well, we'll see him tonight. And I said, Garth, I know you're listening, so I'm going to play samples from your music that you're going to sing tonight. So don't go away. Maybe we'll talk to him later, because I want people to stay listening.
Sure.
So that night at the show, I'm out in the front parking lot standing with Dave Muncy from Channel 10, and Dave goes, why are all these people here? I mean, he's doing his weather live. Yeah. And I went, well, because Garth Brooks is here. And Muncy looks at me and he goes, who in the hell's Garth Brooks?
Yeah.
Dave, you got to get out more.
Yeah.
So anyway, the stage manager and Bill Bichon, who owned Tootlies, came back and said, hey, Garth wants to talk to you. And I said, is he still mad at me? Just, well, no, he just wants to talk to you. So I went back there and tapped on the bus, and the guy comes out, and I give him one of my cards. And he goes, oh, come on in. He wants to talk to you. And so the little bus door opens, and I go on, and he goes, man, I couldn't figure out why you hung up on me. I'm Garth Brooks, and you're hanging up on me.
Yeah.
And I said, Garth, I promised you a sellout. They're going to pay you for a second show. there's a line around the building. Those people would have all dialed away and never heard your music or my comments if I had put you on the air. Because Garth Brooks or not, bad quality means they punch the dial on the radio.
Right.
So you can thank me later for a sold-out show and a second show. And so when I saw Garth in 2003 at the Hall of Fame, when I was inducted into the Country Hall of Fame, he came down and walked backstage wearing a suit and tie, looked like a little Baptist preacher. And so I'm standing there with Reba, Sarah Evans, Tricia Yearwood, and a couple of other people. And the manager of the show comes back and he goes, W, there's a guy who wants to come and congratulate you. Is that okay? Look who's here with me.
Yeah.
If it's okay with them, it's okay with me. By the way, you wouldn't let my wife back here. Well, is it okay, ladies? Yeah. And here comes Garth. And he walked up and he reached out and I shook his hand. He said, do you remember me? I said, yeah, you're Garth Brooks. He said, no, I'm the guy you hung up on.
So of all his success, he remembers getting hung up on.
So, but he did tell me, he said, it made a difference. When I do a sound check, phone, interview, satellite, whatever, can you hear it okay? He said, because I realized that the power of my music was better than the power of my phone voice. And I could sell tickets if I just shut up and let you play the music.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was great.
When you look, I can go down a list in my head of people in country music and music that I love, and music for me, any genre, but music for me, I can close my eyes and be somewhere. You know, it takes me somewhere. Who in the industry, when you look at the artists that are out there, can you separate who they are from their talent? And if so, who are the people in country music that you loved listening to?
Thanks, Mike. That helps. Honestly, I would tell you that I have never in my life turned down a chance to listen to Charlie Pride.
Okay.
I love Charlie Pride. I really admired Chris Ledoux.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, talk about, he was at the same nightclub at Thule's in a Winnebago. And I had a little interview with him, not the time that you would give a big star, but we were promoting some of the stuff on the show. And he said, well, why don't you come out and see me? He said, I'll be in the Winnebago in the back. And he had a little Winnebago. And I went back there. And again, the same thing. You open the stage door, tap on it. And he goes, I can't believe you took time to come see me. I said, really? Are you a nut? But he was a cowboy.
Yeah.
And
a really good rodeo cowboy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's where that connection between Garth and Chris Ledoux and several others. I mean, there were some bull riders that they couldn't sing worth a darn, but, man, they were in that brotherhood.
Yeah.
And you would just, one time, a lot of the big events that I did, I would get the Oakland A's, the Giants. They would all call. I want to go back and see Randy Owens of Alabama. Yeah. I want to go see. And you know what? I'd say, well, let me work on that. Let me see what I can do. Now, I knew as soon as I got a hold of them or George Strait and said, look, I got the Oakland A's. You want them back or not? And there was a guy, Goose Gossage.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, my God. Biggest country fan ever. And he goes, we were with Alabama, and there was about 8 or 10 of the A's there. And he goes, can you guys wait a minute? I got to go out to my car. I've got a couple of cases of baseballs, and I want Randy Owens to sign them. So, well, okay. So he brings all the, and he was waiting to go on stage.
Wow.
And the Oakland A's were there, and he brought him a bat, and he goes, Randy, this is for your son. And
that's incredible.
I mean, but,
well, and a lot of people don't know that Tim McGraw is the son of Tug McGraw,
right?
Major League pitcher.
Yeah, yeah. Well, early on, we tried to help carry that over, and the label discouraged it. I think that in fairness to Tim wanted to make it on his own.
Yeah.
Now, you can't help who your father is or, if your uncle's a mass murderer.
Right.
But the reality, he stood on his own.
Yeah.
Early on, he had a pretty good ego and was a little difficult to deal with. Now you never see him. Today's radio people never get to see the artist.
It's a shame. Merle Haggard and some of those names. I know the history of Waylon Jennings here in Arizona, and I know you know him probably much better than I do, but I was pretty good friends with, and I've had in this podcast, J. David Sloan.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
And J. David has brought through some of the biggest names because of his connection in music.
Yep.
One night at Mr. Lucky's, I was announcing the bull riding there. I used to ride and announce at Mr. Lucky's.
Okay.
And I was announcing the bull ride, and they would do a set. The band would do a set, then they'd buck bulls, then they'd do another set from the band, then they'd buck another round of bulls. And they had a new act coming through town trying to make it. And they had it was a bunch of women in the band, and they were awful. Out of tune, they were terrible. So J. David came to me and said, make sure you say to the crowd that Western Bread's going to be back on stage, and it's not going to be...
Try to hold them, yeah.
So it really was not good. It was the Dixie Chicks.
Oh.
And it was when Natalie Maines had just joined the band, and they were working out how they were going to be. And then when you heard them later, you were blown away by how good they had become.
Yes.
But that's the difference between not good and amazing, is just that little difference, because they became as successful as you could get.
Yeah.
And I saw them on stage at Mr. Lucky's.
Well, they were at my 20th anniversary party, 20 years at the radio station. And Natalie came in with her attitude. And I said to the road manager and to the other two ladies, I said, she may be good, but she's going to ruin your career. And later on, what happened?
Yeah.
She ruined the career.
Yeah.
But you're right. And J. David never gets enough credit for the base of country music. Bob Sikora was okay.
Yeah.
He gave him the money. J. David Sloan gave him a reason to perform there.
And J. David to this day is one of the nicest, good-hearted people, wants everybody to be successful. Jordan Sparks that won American Idol used to sing at the Fish Fry on Friday nights in the contest. And, whose song, I'm trying to remember who it was, that did their video at Mr. Lucky's. But his connection, I think, because the people saw he was a good guy. People in country music trusted him. Is that true?
They trusted J. David?
Yeah.
Oh, they loved him. They loved the fact that J. David didn't get a good contract in Nashville blew me away.
Yeah.
But there are thousands over the years, thousands of people with that much talent that go in there and never, ever, ever, because it's a lock-in position. If the label or the music writers can't control you, you don't get in.
And that's one of the amazing stories going back to Garth Brooks. And I could talk to you about these stories all day. And watching his documentary was when he went to Nashville the first time. And he said, I could make $200 or whatever it was just in a night playing. And he said, man, if you can make that money in a night playing, I'd go back. And he said, that's what I did. I got in my car and I went back. So imagine had he not gone, I wonder how many Garth Brooks are out there. How many of these artists that are really, really good that for whatever reason don't get that break?
Well, but it's label control. I would tell you right now today, there are 10 times as many talented people that don't get a chance to perform because corporations control the artists, they control the revenue, they control the songwriters. I'm working with a group. The CMA is actually getting ready to recognize AI songwriters because my son did this. He went from Chicago to Seattle to LA, and he wrote 4 songs, produced and added music, and came off of that train with a little computer and 4 pieces of music that are absolutely wonderful. And 2 of them we've got labels and big artists looking at them right now.
Wow.
AI, one guy on a train.
That's incredible.
It's putting so many people out of work.
Do you think it's music's going to lose its soul then?
Yes.
That's the scary thing for me is when you listen to, the old Rope in the Wind album by Garth Brooks, and you listen to George Strait sing This Is Where the Cowboy Rides Away or Amarillo by Morning, or you can, it can really, there's a soul in that you can, if you've ever been to a rodeo.
Right.
And I've been to, I wanted to be a bull rider, so I was getting on bulls, and when you hear somebody sing, it's like, man, he wrote that song for me.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yeah.
We're going to, I don't know, are we going to lose that?
Well, and again, and going back to Chris wrote a song about a man walking the streets of Chicago where gangsters fought, and he went into a couple of bars that some of the heavyweight gangsters were in, and he wrote a song because he caught the heart of the Chicago Roaring 20s and the gangsters. But today, if you don't write about that, you write about gangs on the street. And he captured it really well. So I'll tell you when we're through with the podcast, a couple of things that he has that artists are going, that has soul. It's new young writers. Don't give up.
Yeah.
And if AI, once you go on and you buy that licensing, that song is your property. So you've just eliminated ASCAP, BMI. They have their own songwriting and publishing group. You own it. And the only reason some of that good music you're talking about doesn't make it is somebody won't sell it to them. I'll give you 55% of my song if you'll just let someone record it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tight world, so hang on.
Yeah, I've got a friend that is, you may know who he is, but he's an accomplished artist with a band called Third Day in Christian music.
Yes.
Mac Powell, the lead singer. Yeah. Mac and I are friends.
Oh, nice.
And Mac...
So you have another friend besides me?
I do. I have another famous friend besides you. And Mac and I talked when the band stopped touring, he went and did a solo country act. And he tells a funny story about Travis Tritt. People think he sounds like Travis Tritt.
Okay.
And he said Travis got a call from his mother and asked Travis, when did you cut a gospel album?
Oh, wow.
And Travis said, I've never. And she said, I'm listening to you sing a gospel song right now, and it was Mac Powell.
I'll be darned.
But Mac is so talented, and he's got such a great voice, and he's a talented songwriter, and I love all of his music. And we even use it as rejoiners here. But it always amazes me that a guy that is so successful, the #1 grossing Christian band in history, and you never hear him in country music. Yeah. That it's so hard, even for a guy that accomplished, to break through.
Well, but you hit the nail on the head early on, is in the good days, meaning the 70s, 80s, 90s, up to 2000, the radio people could pull out a hit, and they'd say, that may be the one you want. This is the hit. Mm-hmm. And they could put it on the air 2 or 3 times and prove it, and now you can't even get it on the air. People who are so much better than what you're getting.
Yeah.
So, but they own those people. Artists all over that's why they're all on the road. The only money they're going to make is if they go on the road and they double or triple up for a concert, because that's the only way they'll make money.
Well, Darius Rucker was telling the story about Hootie and the Blowfish, and that they were a bar band.
Yeah.
House band. And some guy in New York, a DJ, played one of their songs, and David Letterman was in his car and heard the song and said, get those guys on the show.
Oh, wow.
And I think in the documentary they say it was like 15 shows in a row, David Letterman mentioned the name of the band or something.
Oh, nice.
And they went from playing bars to arenas.
Wow.
But you're right, that break, that one, and then you hear those musics, those iconic songs, and I think that all the time. I wonder how many of those iconic songs exist.
Yes.
That because of the corporate world or without the break, we're never going to hear.
Well, and again, the catchy thing was they had the right
ringing?
name. That's my wife calling. That's Garth Brooks. He's going to hang up on me. One thing that I will tell you, I don't even know where my phone is. You have me so excited. Hang on.
That's all right. This is the great part about a live podcast.
What's this? I'm all yours.
Okay.
The one thing I was going to tell you, if you were going to Nashville, if somebody watching and listening is going to Nashville, if you want real core, that's the IRS. Here, watch this. That's a guy calling about Al.
Oh.
So if you're going to Nashville, and Broadway is, you've been to Nashville.
Yeah, the main street.
Main Street
The strip,
downtown.
so to speak.
There's probably 18 bars there. If you really want to hear the real talent, the real country music people that haven't given up. Stop it.
They're just not going to stop. Now they're leaving voicemail.
Yeah. Hey. It's my wife. That's the kind of guy I am.
Exactly.
So if you really want to hear the talented people, there's a guy named John, and he has Tootsie's Orchid Lounge.
Okay.
It's right on the corner, right across from the stadium. And it's also, it backs up to the Grand Ole Opry, to the Ryman. And the old country stars they would come out the back door of the Ryman when they bought, the CMA bought it, the auditorium. They had a 50-year agreement they would not serve alcohol. So all of the stars would come out the back door and walk down the alley about 300 feet, and Tootsie's Orchid Lounge put a door in and maybe a small place for 25 or 30 artists. Hank Williams Sr., Patsy Cline, all of these,
wow.
Hank Thompson, all Jimmy Rogers. They had their pictures up, and they would go in there and get hammered so they could go into the church and sing. But the guy that owns that has a little stage, and you will find some of the best new talent sitting on his stage. They sing 20-minute, 30-minute set. And if they write songs, John gives them a place. He's got a house for about 8 of them. So that's core country. Country radio will come back, but corporations have to collapse.
Do you think that country music, I know we've got to wrap this up, but do you think that country music is underappreciated as a genre? I'm not saying people that like country or don't like country, but do you think it's underappreciated? I don't think they
Today?
get enough. Yeah, I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves for how good the music is.
I would say that in core country,
right?
People
that's
who
what I mean.
Really are core. Again, up to maybe 2010, Darius Ruckers, that kind of stuff. Those people have not given up. They are searching desperately for podcasts, for look at Willie's Country on satellite. It's the old stuff, but the market today, they can't sell advertising if you're over 40.
Yeah.
So they've disowned that, and yet those are the people that have the millions of dollars that they got nowhere to spend it.
Yep.
Go to Nashville.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm trying to remember who the artist was, but there was a rock and roll guitarist, and it would be a name you would recognize, and I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to mess it up by naming the wrong person. But this person's a world famous guitarist, and they said to them, "What's it like being the greatest guitar player in the world?" And this guy said, and I wish I could remember his name, said, "Don't ask me, go ask Roy Clark." And that was a musician that was saying, that's a musician.
Yeah. That's that high praise that you had to have earned. It isn't given.
And it's from somebody that knows, because people joke about country music and, I lost my dog and I lost my job, but the music is so good and the messages are so impactful. I just don't know that country music as a genre gets the respect it deserves for the quality that it is.
It doesn't, because it's a sellable token in a corporate format. You can make money up to a certain... It's like watching satellite or watching streaming or Antenna.
Yeah.
Antenna has all the old shows that have all the old products for all the old people who spend millions of dollars, but they're not important. They're chasing the young dollar. They're not chasing the real dollar.
Confuses me all the time. It does. It's
As you get older, it's scary too.
So let me close with this.
Okay.
We started off talking about Al McCoy. But I'm curious about your legacy in your mind. How do you want to be remembered? I told you how I remember you, my impression of you was, and how you affected me and impacted me. How would you like to be remembered?
Do I look that bad?
No, the thing is that let me tell you. Then I think it's better that I answer that because that was funny. We had a conversation on Monday when Al had passed away on the weekend.
Okay.
And we were talking to people that knew him, and we were talking about what a good man he was. And I made a comment to one of the guys on the air. I said, isn't it amazing that we do all these tribute things, and we should, when someone passes? Why don't we do this when people are around to still know how we feel? Which is why I wanted to tell you how you impacted me in my career, but just in general, listening to you and how much I loved listening to you. But I also wonder, how do you want people to see you?
Boy, let me call my wife. I'm gonna ask.
No, I'd love to have her to answer that question. But really, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, my life has been simple. It's been poor. It's been very poor. It's been ill. It's been a crutch for many people. My voice has sparked life into people who needed hope. My motorcycle rides, our largest one, over 7,000 motorcycles. We've stopped Interstate 10 so that people had a voice for 9/11. I was one. I was in the flag division. So how do I want people to remember me? A child got a toy because not only did I care, but you cared enough to make that dream come true. Because there were years I didn't get a toy.
I think those words would be profound coming from anyone. But with all of your accomplishments in your career, to want to be remembered for that shows who you really are. And it is humbling to get to know you. And I'm so pleased that you've shared these stories, because this is what this podcast is for, that these stories of the people in Arizona that we've heard forever, to get to know them. And you're the reason why I wanted to do it as the first one, and I wish it had been the first one. Yeah. But I'm glad we had to redo it, and we redid it now.
Absolutely. And I would come back and tell you I got a ticket from a Phoenix cop because of Roy Clark. But I'm not telling you that.
Why now? I want to hear it.
No, I want you to bring me back.
Okay.
We'll do a duo.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll do it. And I'll tell you how I got Waylon Jennings' vest. It's hanging in my closet.
I love Waylon Jennings so much that I did an event. I was at the Veterans Hall of Fame here in Arizona I can't remember if I was there as the MC I think I was there as the MC one year. And Jesse Coulter was there as the guest, as a date, a +1 of one of the people in the crowd. And I got to meet her.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That's how much I love Waylon, is I was excited to meet her.
To meet Jesse.
And, she loved talking about him. She was happy to. At least she acted like she was.
Yeah.
But those are the people in my life when I think about music. That he is another one of them that is just, anytime a song of his comes on, I'm going to stop and listen to every word.
You're not going to turn it off.
Never.
Yeah. Well, next time, here's a teaser.
Okay.
I will tell you about Waylon, Richie Albright, Jay, all of those guys, when they were playing at Mr. Lucky's, would get done at 1.
Yep, because the bar closed at 1.
They would come out. I was doing the all-night show at KRDS in Tolleson, and they would come out with 2 or 3 bottles of Jack Daniels every time a Bobby Bear song came out. And when a Bobby Bear song was out, there was Waylon. Great. He loved Bobby Bear. He wanted to be able to sing every song that Bobby did. And when they found out Bobby was coming to town, he came out and they sat there all night. I had to run him out at 5:45 because I'd get fired. I was told, don't ever have people in the studio.
I think they'd make an exception for Waylon Jennings.
But not at that time. He was a drunk cowboy. And they would all sit out there, Richie and those guys, and they would play and drink. And I go, hey, I need that record. I got to play it on the air. But the point is, when they learned the song, they would go out to Lucky's and they would play it. And Waylon said, I got to get every one of these songs down because Bobby's coming to town and he's going to open the door at RCA Records for me.
Wow.
So he was singing in tribute and trying to get a contract, and he got it.
Amazing.
And I didn't get even a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Those stories.
It was so fun.
The whole point of these podcasts, and this exemplifies it. W. Stephen Martin. W, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate any help on the toy drive, and God bless all
I
of
will
you.
do anything I can for you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Bye.